My gosh, Connell,
yes.
Powerful there at the White House.
It was a lot.
Yes, indeed. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Connell, thank you very much. Hello, good evening, and thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Burman. This is The Hill on News Nation. So he's back from the Middle East, and with a message for Hamas. They better not fool around.
They're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games.
Wow. So, will the ceasefire hold? We are live tonight from the Middle East. Minutes before that warning, the commander-in-chief releasing this video right here. Why another alleged Venezuelan drug boat, see that, was sent to the bottom of the sea. Back here at home, I guess you could call this a different kind of first appearance. The New York Attorney General Letitia James and Trump political foe campaigning with Zohran Mamdani in New York. How the president reacted to that duo. Plus, we're getting a new vote happening right now, actually, but it's most likely going to be the same story. So will the Senate take a new tact as we are about to enter the third week of a government shutdown? What John Thune is telling News Nation tonight. But first tonight here from The Hill, honoring a conservative icon and hosting a conservative leader. President Trump today back from the Middle East and before the cameras on two different occasions over at the White House. Moments ago, awarding the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously to Charlie Kirk. And before then, meeting with Javier Milei to try to help bail out Argentina. We begin tonight with our Kelly Meyer live at the White House with those two stories this evening. Hello, Kelly.
Yeah, hey, Blake, we just left the Rose Garden moments ago. That was President Trump's first event, really, in the newly renovated Rose Garden. And he did joke about pushing this event back after that whirlwind trip to the Middle East. But he said once he realized it was Charlie Kirk's birthday, he said he couldn't say no. He did invite Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, to attend as he awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Also there, Kirk's good friends, Vice President J.D. Vance and Don Jr., and members of the president's cabinet. This is really the first gathering we've seen of many of those names for this event that we saw the same in Arizona when we were there for that service. But Trump, we know, wasn't the only president at the event today. Argentina's Milei also there, as you mentioned, Blake.
Yeah, and that's how the I guess afternoon started off for the president there. A lot of talk involving Argentina and not just that country.
Yeah, that's right. There was a lot of talk of that. The president stayed for this event. We know with Kirk, he was just here in the Rose Garden moments ago, and he was there after his lunch with President Trump. We know President Trump welcomed him to the White House for the first time today after the U.S. advanced that $20 billion bailout for Argentina. Take a listen to this.
How is this Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's really meant to help a good financial philosophy. When we can help our neighbors, you know, we're making tremendous progress in South America.
So he was also asked if China was trying to drive a wedge between the U.S. and Argentina by purchasing soybeans from Argentina. The president replied, "I would say so." He also endorsed the Argentinian president, saying, quote, I think he's really on the verge of tremendous economic success. Blake?
All right, our Kelly Meyer live tonight over at the White House. Kelly, thank you. So Milei has long been a supporter of Trump, known for his desire to pivot away from socialist tendencies and cut government spending. You remember this scene? Earlier this year, big conservative gathering here in the D.C. area. He even wielded a chainsaw on stage with one Elon Musk. You remember that, as Doge began its federal government cuts. But when Argentina just found itself in need of a bailout, the U.S. now coming to the rescue with a $20 billion lifeline. Now, there's another issue here. It's China. Look at this. Last year, China bought north of $12 billion worth of soybeans here from the U.S. They are our top buyer. But since May, since this point right here, nothing. Instead, they've been turning to other countries, including, you guessed it, Argentina. So, as Milei was leaving the White House today, this was the post from President Trump. Quote, I believe that China purposely not buying our soybeans and causing difficulty for our soybean farmers is an economically hostile act. The president goes on to say we are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. And as this very post hit this afternoon at 3:37 in the afternoon, stocks moved downward. Would you look at that? The S&P 500, for example, flipping from red to green in just the last 20 minutes of the trading session, with all of that as the backdrop. Joining us now here on the Hill with us live in studio, Congressman Troy Downing, a Republican from Montana. Congressman, thanks for being with us tonight.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. A lot going on right now.
A lot going on. The question that the president was asked was, how is this America first? Right. If we're sending, essentially, giving this $20 billion loan to Argentina right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, just want to make sure that we're characterizing it correctly. This is a currency swap, so there is a possibility of us actually doing fine on that currency swap. But really, Argentina is, it's systemically important. We need to make sure that we are creating good trading partners who align with the United States in the Americas and in South America. I was with President Milei a couple of months ago and talking about that. And one of the things that he's been very resistant to doing is allowing Chinese investment in his country. And I think that that's good for national security. I think that's good for future trade. And I think that Argentina, needs to be helped, because I think it is systemically important to the United States as a trading partner and ally in the Americas.
I hear you there, but this was some of the concerns from Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, at the end of September. He said, why would the U.S. help bail out Argentina when they take American soybean producers' biggest market? We should use leverage at every turn to help hurting the farm economies here. It should be top of mind in negotiations by representatives of the U.S. Does he have a point there?
Well, it is top of mind, and I think that we're kind of bifurcating two things. Our farmers, our producers are struggling right now. Not just soybeans. We've got the same issue with wheat in Montana. Our farmers are suffering. They've got a lot of product that they haven't been able to move. Also, the other thing is there's help on the way. And if you talk to any farmer, they don't want handouts. They just need to be able to not go bankrupt next year. And right now they're paying for next year's inputs. They're starting to invest in next year's operations, and they still have product that they haven't traded yet. So we need to open the government so we can get the USDA to start with these programs again, to give them a bridge to actually start to rebuild those. But ultimately, I think we've got a short-term hiccup as we work on these trade deals with other nations. I think that is going to come back. I think that just like Trump has put so many great deals, like with the UK on beef, we have so many good trade deals right there. I think that's all coming. We need the government open so we can give a little bit of short-term relief to our farmers, so we get to the point where we actually start selling it again.
When you say help on the way, you mean a bailout? You think a bailout's coming?
Well, I think there's going to be financial assistance, and again, I just want to underline: no farmer wants a bailout. No farmer wants something for free. They want to sell their product, but right now we're at risk of having a lot of them, not be around next year, because they are financially burdened right now because they haven't sold, this year's crop, and they're already starting to invest in next year's production.
Is the U.S. on the brink of a farm crisis? 46% say yes, according to the National Corn Growers Association. Is that what you're seeing in Montana?
Well, I think that I wouldn't characterize it as a crisis, but I think it starts to hit crisis mode if we can't get the government open soon. We need to start dealing with these problems soon. We need to get the USDA working. We need to get Secretary Rollins working on getting a bridge to the point where we get those trade deals done and start selling in our international markets.
I got to imagine there's some folks screaming through the television right now who say, what does this have to do with the government opening the government? Just tell Trump to dump the tariff. Stop. Move off that policy.
Well, here's the thing, is I think what the Trump wants, and I think what the American people want, and we all deserve, is to have fair trading deals with our trading partners. And I think that's the end goal. And as we've said from the beginning, a lot of this, you get short-term pain as you're starting to work with that ambiguity, because, one of the things is, folks want to know where it's going to fall before they start contracting for next year's purchases. So they don't want to do that with that ambiguity. As soon as that starts to fall, I think everything lays in place. So the characterization of a crisis, I think it's very concerning right now. And every day that we don't have the government back functioning to deal with this, starts to get it towards crisis mode. I don't think we're at crisis mode. I think that we're going to survive this. I think our farmers and ranchers are going to do fine. I think we just need to get to the point where the government is open, we're functioning again. And in terms of the tariffs, we're just trying to get, fair trading agreements with our trading partners, and I think we're going to get there.
When do you think this shutdown ends?
Oh boy,
Weeks.
I think it's going to be weeks. I'm hoping. I know they're voting right now. I'm hoping sooner.
Show it soon.
Yeah, I'm hoping, but I've not heard any intel that there's going to be any difference today than there was the last, what's it, 8 now votes?
Oh, 8 votes. Yeah.
I've not heard any intel that's going to change, and that's really frustrating for me because what I believe has happened is we had, the House passed a spending bill, a continuing resolution to get us to, the appropriations process, and we've got appropriations bills. They just need to be reconciled in conference committee. We have a path to get there, and the roadblocks that the Democrats have put there, I think it's just a red herring.
Is the path just Trump saying, "Get it done, Mike. Get it done, John"?
I don't think it's that easy right now. I think what's happened is a lot of folks are worried that we've been given, an ultimatum that's not good for the American people. A very expensive alternative resolution from the Democrats that has been, $1.5 trillion in additional spending with stuff that is completely unrelated to what we're trying to do. But the other thing is these are such big issues and such an expensive issue. They need to see the light of day, debated in committee, not as a ransom note to the American people because they don't want Trump to succeed.
All right, we'll leave it there. Troy Downing, Republican from Montana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on in.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, still to come. What we've just been talking about in part. Live look, Senate floor right now. They are voting at this moment on a bill to reopen the government. You know where this is going, but John Thune is talking to News Nation, and we'll tell you what he's saying about the future here. Plus, new footage of that deadly boat strike near Venezuela. What message is the commander-in-chief trying to send as he tries to hold down peace between Israel and Hamas? Plus this.
When we have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing, practically he's never worked a day in his life.
So Zohran Mamdani was on stage up there next to Letitia James, and that's how the president responded today. I'm Blake Burman, back on the other side of the break, 4 minutes away. I'll see you then.
Different.
Donald Trump has spent more time on the golf course than talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill.
We're not playing games. They're playing a game. We're not.
Just re-rack the sound bites, I guess. 14 days of finger pointing. The government shutdown entering its 3rd week. No off-ramp in sight. Happening right now at this moment here in this town. Senators, as we take a live look there on the Senate floor, voting for an 8th time on the GOP funding bill. It is almost certain to fail. You know the backdrop here. Democrats want Obamacare subsidies extended. Republicans rejecting that, saying, let's open the government and then we'll talk. The Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, telling News Nation today that Republicans will only negotiate on health care after passing a short-term bill.
Honestly, I think there is a willingness, and I think there are a lot of members up here on our side of the aisle, as well as on the Democrat side, who want to have that conversation about what we can do to make health care more affordable and more accessible. But you got to open up the government. Don't take the federal government hostage. And as soon as you are willing to release or free the hostage, then we can start talking about these other things.
The White House, meantime, finding, they say, a loophole to fund critical services that will likely extend the shutdown stalemate, at least when it comes to paying troops. Our Joe Khalil, live once again, up on the Hill. All the action and none at all. What are they doing right now?
Yeah, and Blake, this vote is most certainly going to fail now. 44 no's as I'm looking at it, which means it will ultimately fail again. We're nowhere close, honestly, to finding a resolution. In fact, the indications, Blake, are that the resolution to ending this is actually getting further and further away. And one of those indicators is the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget today, signaling, as you pointed out, that they're going to be moving some money around to pay for certain things. For example, military salaries, people who are active duty, they will get paid now because the DOD is moving some funds to make sure that happens. WIC, which is assistance, food assistance for women and children, that will be funded by tariff revenue, and federal law enforcement officers that otherwise would not get a paycheck, they are going to get one as well. Now, all of those things are objectively good things, right? We want our military to get paid, but also it takes pressure points that might add urgency to bring both sides to the table, off the table. And so what that does is sort of give both sides the ability to prolong this thing further without that extra pressure, Blake. So we're seeing that. Mick Mulvaney knows all about that as well at OMB. That is something we will certainly be keeping our eye on moving forward here.
Our Joe K live in the Capitol hallways, teeing me up perfectly. Joe, thank you. With me now, the aforementioned Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation contributor, former Trump White House chief of staff, and need a little more South Carolina with us. Down there in the great state of the former Democratic Congressman Joe Cunningham, former Democrat, with us live here on the Hill. Joe, if you don't mind, I'll start in studio with Mick. Joe K is exactly right, Mick. You and I have talked about this. As Joe K put it, everyone wants to see the troops paid. Everyone wants to see folks get the help that they need. But when you do that, you take the pressure points off politically, and it makes you wonder if this thing goes for how many more weeks?
Yeah, and it's starting to look a lot more like 2019. Remember, we talked earlier in the show last week about when the first pain point was, which was tomorrow or the next day, which is when a lot of folks won't get paid, including the troops. Back in 2019, the troops were funded. The Congress at that time had passed the defense appropriation bill, so there was never a question in 2019 as to whether or not the soldiers would get paid, and that shutdown went for 35 days. If you take that pressure off here, which it looks like what the White House is trying to figure out a way to do, it does take pressure off, and it might prolong the shutdown.
Joe, take me inside the mind then of Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer if you can.
Not sure I can do that, Blake, but I will say that I think that this time around, the tipping point could actually come from the skies, because if air traffic controllers start taking time off or they can't work safely, I think you're going to start to see major disruptions across the country. And that takes it from a political issue to a kitchen table issue. I mean, once flights are delayed and businesses lose money, families miss events, I think the pressure on both sides is going to skyrocket.
Yeah, Joe, there's actually a wrinkle on that. I'm sorry to jump on Blake here, but I understand there's been a change in the way that air traffic controllers can take sick pay since 2019, and if they call in sick during a government shutdown, it doesn't count the same against their annual sick leave, which is just sort of an incentive for them not to come to work. I think you may be right. I think that may be the real pressure point here, is when people start missing flights, including members of Congress trying to get home.
So, look, if leadership knows this, right, and the White House knows this, Mick, take me inside the mind then of Trump and one of your your protege, Russ Vought.
Yeah, well, I think they're looking at it like this. In 2013, Republicans wanted to use a shutdown as leverage. No one would negotiate with them. In 2019, Republicans wanted to shut down the government in order to get some leverage, and no one would negotiate with them. One of the reasons we haven't had a shutdown for the last, 6 years is because people just don't. The word is out in Washington, D.C. that if you shut down the government trying to gain leverage, no one will negotiate with you, and you ultimately have to give in. And I think that's the lesson here that Republicans are trying to teach the Democrats. You did it to us 6 or 8 years ago. If we give in now and negotiate on a government shutdown, we'll have one every single year.
Here was Mike Johnson earlier today, and then Joe, I'll kick it to you on the other side.
There were some R&D accounts that had not been spent, and that's my understanding is that's the money that's being used to pay the troops right now. If the Democrats want to go to court and challenge troops being paid, bring it, okay?
And that's the question, right? Like, there's going to be a question here of who can do it and when they can or cannot do it. And Mike Johnson kind of hit the nail on the head there. Is anybody really going to say, well, actually, I'm not sure we can do this with the troops?
I got to tell you,
Joe,
I was waiting for Joe there.
Well, I mean, eventually the shoe's going to be on the other foot, right? And what they're doing is simply kicking this can further down the road. And while Mick may be right about certain restrictions on pay, the pressure is eventually going to be at the airports and lines at TSA or air traffic controllers. Something has got to give. You shut down LaGuardia for 24, 48 hours, I think you're going to see politicians scramble to the negotiating table.
Mick?
I think it's right. I think that is the pressure point here right now. I just don't know how you get off the treadmill now that you're on it right now. Keep in mind that every single time they find a way to pay somebody else, it actually takes the pressure down and makes it likely this goes on longer.
Joe Cunningham.
One key though, Blake, is that as these letters go out about open enrollment, Americans are going to start to see their premiums rise, and that's going to be another pressure point as well.
Fair enough. Joe Cunningham, thank you, sir. Mick Mulvaney, catch you later in the show. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having me.
All right. For sure. Still much more ahead tonight here on the Hill. President Trump with this threat today for Hamas.
And they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
The fighting over, at least for the moment, but there are some challenges already to the brokered peace deal in the Middle East, live in Israel on the other side. Plus, with all of this unfolding, the president posting this once again. Is there an end game? .30 here in Washington tonight, 1:30 across the Middle East, and the peace deal between Israel and Hamas still holding steady in phase one of the agreement brokered by President Trump. The president, however, not thrilled earlier today when pressed on how he would make Hamas put down their weapons, a crucial next step in the president's 20-point plan.
And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games.
The president with that message several times in the Oval. The hostage situation, not entirely resolved either, as there's been some complications over the return of the remains of some of the Israeli hostages. 8 remains, coffins in total, returning. That is far short of what was believed would be returning to Israel. Our Robert Sherman, our man on the ground, with the very latest there live in the Middle East tonight. Robert?
Hey there, Blake. Well, just a few moments ago, actually, 4 coffins were transferred from the Red Cross to the IDF. They've just been delivered to a forensic institute here in Israel. Your math is right. That brings it to a total of 8 hostage remains that have been returned of the 28 that Hamas has said that they had. And according to the original parameters of this agreement, Hamas was supposed to hand over all these remains yesterday. The president was asked about this today, and here's what he said.
We did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do. Above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that.
The Israeli Prime Minister's office slamming the slow walking of this process, saying, we will not compromise on this, and we will spare no effort until we return all of the hostages until the last one. President Trump insisting that this deal will hold and press forward to phase 2. Those are more complicated discussions dealing with governance in Gaza, de-radicalization, demilitarization of Hamas, as you just pointed out a short while ago. And the White House is betting big on this deal because the overarching goal is to expand peace here in the region, open up diplomatic ties between Israel and other nations, and reshape the whole Middle East. That's what's at stake here for this administration. Blake?
Robert Sherman, Tel Aviv tonight. Once again, Robert, thank you. Now, as the president works to hold peace between Israel and Hamas, a much different picture playing out. Would you look at that in our hemisphere? The president posting yet another video of the U.S. military destroying a boat that he says was smuggling drugs off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean. It is the 5th strike that the commander-in-chief has ordered since September. The president says that 6 narco-terrorists on board were killed in what you're watching right here. All told, 27 have been killed in the strikes. With me now, retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery, back once again with us here on the Hill. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being in. What was the message that the president's trying to send there? I mean, he comes back from the Middle East. As Javier Milei is about to walk into the Oval Office, I don't think it's connected to that unless you feel otherwise. But as all that's happening, he posts on his Truth Social feed, oh, by the way, here's another one of these.
So I think the president does intentionally post these. I don't think the timing can be driven by, like, walks into the White House.
Yeah, no,
as good as the military is,
yeah,
they're not that good. So, but this is a signal. It's a signal about how he treats hostile intent. This is a reinterpretation. I spent my career several times. I did counter-narcotics deployments, Coast Guard flag, Coast Guard detachment, a truly law enforcement operation. He is taking a different tack on this and treating it like hostile intent, and then holding those drug runners accountable.
You mentioned your career, son of a career naval officer. You were, just so our audience knows, you were assigned to the National Security Council for Director of Transnational Threats at one point. You know what you're talking about with this stuff. Is this the way to go about it?
So again, I treat this more as a law enforcement. I really think we're going a little too aggressive here. I get, though, that he's trying to transmit a message within the hemisphere of his that he is not going to accept drug cartels delivering weapons, delivering drugs, whether to the United States or to islands on the way to the United States. I think he's going to have trouble legally at some point. But right now, he's the president, and he's made a determination. I think Congress will eventually come back on this, because this makes a lot of senior leaders uncomfortable, because reinterpreting law enforcement as hostile intent can come back and bite us at a later time.
To Robert Sherman and what he reported in the Middle East, the developments that the president walked back into the White House at like 2:55 in the morning, and then gets back up around as Javier Milei there in the cabinet room, and he starts answering questions. And it was pretty clear to me, Admiral, that Trump was not thrilled that only at that point in time 4 of the hostage remains were back. Tonight we know it's 8, still 20 short of what Hamas had promised.
You know, this is a transparency and credibility issue. I mean, Hamas transmitted that they could get 24, 26 of the 28 sets of remains. They've produced, in the time frame allowed, 4, a little later, now 8. I think there'll be more, but I think they're going to have trouble producing these remains over time in combat, burying them in certain places. This is going to be a problem, and it's going to be a big problem for Hamas and for the citizens of Gaza, because there's a point at which Prime Minister Netanyahu will feel compelled to take action. It's not there yet, and that's why the president's talking tough, because he would like this to go forward. He wants to go past phase 1, into phase 2, into phase 3, and really get to a solution here. And he recognizes Hamas's lack of credibility, lack of transparency, jeopardizes his long-term goals.
How do you think Hamas receives what came out of the cabinet room today?
Hopefully it's threatening, and they'll take action. Again, they need to be transparent. They need to eventually say, look, we only know where these many remains are. We're going to need assistance with detection gear and things to find the rest. And I suspect it's less than 24 or 26 that they really thought could get everybody to the finish line.
Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery with us once again. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you on in. We'll talk again soon. Still to come tonight, other side of the break. This was the scene I was referencing, right? So you see Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance next to the president. This is what unfolded on camera earlier today. Javier Milei was in there. So why are we showing you Zohran Mamdani? Well, it was one of the first things the president said. And we'll show it to you on the other side.
Tomorrow, Chris Cuomo, Bill O'Reilly, Stephen A. Smith, and more.
Join us for a nationwide conversation.
Cuomo, live from the Kennedy Center, the News Nation Town Hall. Tomorrow, 8, 7 Central.
For a night of television you cannot afford to miss.
Only on News Nation. News for all Americans.
See the difference.
All right, so the president today taking time during his meeting with the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, to rail against the Democratic Socialist candidate for New York City mayor, Zohran Mamdani.
We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. The money comes all through the White House. He hates police. He wants to get rid of all police. I mean, how can a policeman? He hates Jewish people.
And while the president had Milei's back at the White House today, throwing his support to Milei in Argentina's election later this month, it was a familiar Trump adversary, the New York Attorney General Letitia James, who found herself at Zohran Mamdani's side at his rally last night. It was her first public appearance since her federal indictment last week on fraud charges tied to a mortgage loan. She vowed not to let up against President Trump.
And I will keep fighting for justice. I will keep fighting for New Yorkers. I will keep fighting the aggressive policies of Washington, D.C., and I will not stop.
By the way, this developing just moments ago, I should note, the Senate, speaking of Washington, rejecting the GOP measure to reopen the government. We are told that vote is happening right now, 45 to 49. It failed. Full panel with me now, Mick Mulvaney, News Nation political contributor, back once again. Jonay Wartell, speaking of who's back once again, Democratic strategist. T.W. Origi, Vice President of Push Digital Group, and Scott Bolden, News Nation political contributor. Hello to you all. Nice to have you all in. I'm going to start with you two because you know Letitia James and you know Donald Trump. And I found it interesting that Letitia James shows up at Zohran Mamdani's rally last night. Trump has Javier Milei there in the cabinet room, and one of the first things he did was talk about Zohran Mamdani.
You don't think he watched the news, do you?
I mean, on his way back on Air Force One?
I mean, the man
They're not having dinner tonight either, by the way.
Exactly. The man doesn't sleep. He watches cable news. That's what he does. So he knew exactly who was with Mamdani.
What about that message that he was trying to hammer home today, which was Mamdani was able to pivot Milei was able to pivot Argentina away from socialism, and so that's what New York City shouldn't do in the president's view.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Trump is going to try and make Mamdani out to be a communist. I think he's going to have more luck on the 33-year-old who's never had a job type of I think that's probably better because, face it, communist is not as bad as it used to be. And when you've got the federal government taking ownership of private companies in Washington, it sort of blurs the line. So I'm not sure the "you're a communist" is Mamdani as it used to be.
Mamdani certainly has a job.
What was Letitia James?
Elected official.
What was Letitia James thinking of?
Hey, listen, this is well, Mamdani is the nominee for sure, and they're both left of center, far left of center in their policies and stuff, and he's winning that race. I don't know why Donald Trump is so obsessed with that race, but he is. But the more he talks bad about Mamdani and this other and Letitia James, the more he's helping them win their races. Now this is a fight Letitia James thinks she can win, the vindictive prosecution. As a former prosecutor and a white-collar criminal defense lawyer, these motions before trial almost never make it because you don't have the facts to support it. In this case, in Comey's case, the president has given them a lot of facts to suggest that they were selectively prosecuted, and it's going to be interesting what the judges do with these preliminary motions.
His interest is real. He considers himself a New Yorker. He really does. He
They hate him in New York. Why? He still loves New York.
Trump going right at it first thing in the morning.
Well, what we know. Yeah, well, what we know about Donald Trump is that he doesn't lash out at anyone unless he's afraid of them, right? And we see that this is firepower for the progressive base, right? When they see Donald Trump going after someone who is a progressive champion, it signals to them that this is someone who is clearly a front runner and can win this race. And so I think to your point here, what he's done is really just give him that boost that he needs really to continue to lead this race. And let's be clear, this is about him resisting the changing face of power in a community in a big city like New York and rejecting his platform where he's brought forth issues on equity, issues on justice, on the cost of living, things that the American voters across the country are really concerned about right now.
This race is still in New York City, correct? This race is a fait accompli. Zohran Mamdani is the next mayor. This isn't because he's afraid of him or he wants to stop him from winning. That ship has sailed long ago.
Then why
this
attack
is a
him?
Preview for 2026 because outside of New York City, socialism and communism are not popular. Saying that you want to enforce the ICC's ruling against Bibi Netanyahu and arrest him is still gaining in popularity, but not popular.
A lot of countries believe that, too.
Globalize the Intifada is still not popular in many parts of this country. This is a preview for 2026 in hanging socialism and communism around the neck of the Democrats.
Here's what Trump said today. Roll it real quick.
We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. Took 12 days to do Washington, D.C., so New York is bigger.
What about this message from Trump today, Mick? And to TW's point, if this is game, set, match, which it's not officially, but the polls and the betting markets show that it is, Trump, it seems like, is moving and saying, all right, if we get to this point, follow the money, and he says it's not going to flow to New York City.
Listen, if you thought he was aggressive in what he did in Los Angeles or Memphis or Chicago, I mean, it's coming in an even bigger way in New York City, because again, he considers this to be his home, and he does not want to see it decline like it did. Keep in mind, Donald Trump sort of seized the world through the 1970s, the mid to late 1970s. He doesn't want to see New York like that again.
Well, thank goodness we've got Article III courts that will stop him and block him if he tries to take money or withhold money from New York City or New York State.
He mentioned Washington, so let's pivot there for a second. Jonay, as I mentioned, that vote in the Senate just failed moments ago. It is the 8th vote. I bet you the 9th and the 10th, if there is, will probably move in that direction as well. The White House says that troops will be paid, that they'll get troops paid, that they'll help women, infants, and children on the SNAP programs. And while most folks, I think, would want to pay the troops and help women, infants, and children, the political reality is once you do that, it just seems like this shutdown extends only even longer.
I agree.
I'm not suggesting you don't do it. I'm just saying that's the political reality right now, is it not?
I agree, because look, this is speaking directly to his base, to his voters who care about the most vulnerable populations, who care about military, who care about that funding. And so it does weaken, in some ways, the resolve of Democrats to say, let's hold this shutdown, because there's a lot of folks here saying, okay, there are people getting paid. This is not all that bad, right? Democrats were able to hold the line because nothing was happening. No money was moving. No one was getting paid. And so that was really the defense that they had against this chaos. Right. But now it's a more challenging position to take.
You're at one of the biggest Democratic shops in this town. You've got a sense of where Democrats are on this. Do you think they move at any point?
I think they have to hold the line here, right? Let's think about the last shutdown.
I know you think they have to, but when push comes to shove with them, is that what they're going to do for weeks now?
I think that's what they have to do. And here's why. Okay. Because let's look at the last shutdown. The last shutdown, when there was a lot of discussion around let's make a deal, right? That deal was made, and Schumer got really nothing for that. Nothing politically and nothing from a policy.
You're talking about March of last year, not the shutdown in 2019.
The last CR.
Yes, sorry.
Not the last shutdown, the last CR. Okay.
The last CR.
And let's look at what he got for it, which was virtually nothing.
A whole lot of grief from Democrats is what he got for it.
He got nothing from his side, he got nothing from the other side. And so I think what he knows and what Democrats know and what Leader Jeffries knows is that unless Democrats hold the line here, they're going to be in a far weakened position going into 2026 midterms.
You're right. It's politics. Schumer showed his hand last week when he said, well, we're in a really better spot politically. It's all politics. And I think people look at this and they see the government being held ransom for a debate on health care, which everyone has said is a worthy and valid argument. Mike Lawler has a bill. Both.
By the Republicans.
Both. Speaker Johnson has said it. President Trump has said it. There is a bill on the floor by Mike Lawler to extend it for a year so we can have this debate. And what the Democrats are doing is showing Americans that they're willing to hold the entire government hostage on a debate on health care. Worthy debate, but not worthy holding it hostage. Reopen the government, be responsible.
There's one person at this table who has quite literally signed a piece of paper to shut the government down. It is that man right there. So I'll give you the final word here, and just give me your sort of final thought as you process where we are tonight.
Yeah, I think it could go a long time. The one thing I've heard in the last couple of days is that watch the rally on Saturday. That there's a rumor going around town that the Democrats in the Senate are interested in talking about maybe cutting a deal right now or opening up the government, but they don't want to do it in front of these activists being here on Saturday. Again, never trust Republicans when they tell you what Democrats are thinking and vice versa. So take that with a huge grain of salt, but let's watch that.
But you see, it's just a conversation. Why won't the Republicans have a conversation? We can't afford to wait.
Didn't have it with us.
Say what?
You didn't have it with us in 2013.
Well, you didn't have it with us with the big ugly bill either, but now's the time.
Open the government,
you got 4 million.
All right, I got to leave it there.
Got multiple millions of dollars that are stake.
Got to leave it there. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
And another thing.
Other side of the break, a big change at the world's biggest retailer. Did you see the headline today involving Walmart? And 2 letters we talk a whole lot about.
It's 9 today.
All right, if you're just getting home, trying to catch up on today's top stories, here's some of what's trending over at thehill.com. We are now at this phase of the shutdown right now. Johnson dares Democrats to challenge Trump's move to pay the military. As we told you before the break, the Senate just voted down the latest bill. How about this? Newsom vetoes bill banning forever chemicals in cookware. This pitted celebrity chefs against environmentalists in California. The chefs won. And then, have you seen this? Trump knocks time over super bad photo with relatively good story about me. Honestly, when I saw that picture, he's the most photographed man in the United States. That's the one they chose. Trump's complaining about it, talking about it. For those stories and a whole lot more, all you have to do is head on over to thehill.com. By the way, you can sign that QR code there to get our morning newsletters. All right, time for my take now. And how about this? Two of the biggest companies in America, Walmart, teams up with OpenAI to allow purchases directly in ChatGPT. Now, for context here, Walmart, the largest employer in this country outside of the federal government. It's also the largest grocery store in America. OpenAI, ChatGPT's parent company, now worth $500 billion. Now, Walmart says, get ready for AI-first shopping experiences. This was what the CEO said today. He said, for many years now, e-commerce shopping experiences have consisted of a search bar and a long list of responses. That's about to change. Now, about to change can mean a lot of things, right? But look back at the last major change in e-commerce. It was basically when they added the E to commerce in the internet boom of the 90s. And if you think that represented a sweeping change, I want you to take a look at this. Caught my attention. This right here shows usage of the internet by the millions over the course of time. You can see what it took them 13 years to hit 800 million users, the internet. ChatGPT, 3 years. Look at the difference in adoption there. So we used to get announcements like this, maybe once a month, every quarter or so. Now we're getting these, it feels like every single day. The new speed in this new AI age. Coming up on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, she's talking to the former Chinese hostage, Mark Suidan, who was held in China for 12 years and was even sentenced to death at one point. That is minutes away. A whole lot going on between the U.S. and China. Elizabeth will have that in seconds. I'm Blake Burman. I thank you so much for watching us tonight here on The Hill. We'll be back tomorrow. Elizabeth starts now.